Hey everyone, thanks for clicking on this video. Real quick before we start, if this story sends chills down your spine, smash that like button and subscribe. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. I always wonder who's brave enough to watch these stories at 3 a.m. All right, let's get into it. My name is John Carter, former U.S. Army Special Forces. Delta Force, if you want to be specific. Though we're not supposed to use that term, I spent 12 years in the most elite military unit on the planet. I've operated in 17 countries across 4 continents. I've done things I can't talk about, killed people whose deaths were never reported, and survived situations that should have been impossible. But nothing prepared me for British Columbia in 2018. Nothing prepared me for Operation Silverback, and nothing prepared me for the moment I realized that the most dangerous predator in North America isn't human. I'm breaking my NDA by telling you this. The consequences could be severe. Prison time, loss of benefits, maybe worse. But I don't care anymore. Because what happened in those mountains, what we encountered, what killed 3 of my brothers in arms, that's something people need to know about. The government knows. They've known for decades. And they've been managing the situation quietly, efficiently, the way they manage everything that doesn't fit the official narrative. But the situation is escalating. More encounters every year, more casualties. And eventually, the truth is going to come out anyway. So, here it is, the truth about Bigfoot. About what the military really does when these creatures become a problem. And about what happens when you send the world's best soldiers to kill something that's been surveying in the wilderness for thousands of years. Spoiler alert, we lost. It started in September 2018. I was stationed at Fort Bragg, technically on leave, after a deployment I can't discuss in a place I can't name. My team and I were doing the usual downtime routine. Physical training, equipment maintenance, trying to decompress from months of high-stress operations. Then I got the call. Secure line. Report to the unit commander immediately. Full team recall. That was unusual. We'd just rotated back. Usually got at least a month between deployments. But when you're Delta, you don't question. You go. The briefing room was cold and windowless, like always. Colonel Marcus Webb stood at the front with a laptop and a projector my team filed in. 8 operators, all of us with at least 5 years in the unit. We'd worked together so long we could communicate without words, brothers, in the truest sense. There was Rodriguez, our medic, best combat corpsman I'd ever worked with. Could keep you alive with duct tape and determination. There was Martinez, our breacher. Could open any door, crack any safe, disable any explosive. Vogel, our sniper. Could put a round through a keyhole at 800 yards. Williams, our communications specialist. Could hack into anything with a signal. Thompson, our heavy weapons guy. Could carry a machine gun like it weighed nothing. Jackson, our second in command. Tactical genius with ice water in his veins. And Brooks, our youngest operator, but possibly the most naturally talented soldier I'd ever seen. 8 of the best. That's what I thought then. 8 would be enough for anything. Gentlemen, you're going to Canada. Colonel Webb began without preamble. Joint operation with the Canadian military. Technically, you're not there. This mission doesn't exist. Standard non-attribution protocols apply. We'd heard that before black operations were our specialty, the kind that never made the news. What's the target? Jackson asked. Webb clicked the projector. An image appeared, a logging camp, or what was left of one. Heavy equipment overturned, buildings damaged, destruction that looked almost deliberate. 3 weeks ago, a logging operation in northern British Columbia was attacked, 12 workers injured, 3 hospitalized with severe trauma, equipment destroyed, approximately $2 million in damages. Attacked by who? I asked. Eco-terrorists? That was the initial assumption. But the evidence doesn't support it. No explosives, no accelerants, no tool marks. Just brute force physical destruction. And these... He clicked again. The next image showed tracks, footprints in mud. They looked human. 5 toes, heel, arch, but they were massive. At least 18 inches long and 8 inches wide at the ball. Bear tracks? Vogel suggested. That's what the Canadian authorities thought initially. But bears don't have 5 toes. And the stride length is wrong. These prints are 7 to 8 feet apart. Whatever made them was walking upright with a gait that matches human bipedal locomotion, just scaled up. The room went quiet. We all knew where this was going, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. Webb continued. The Canadian military sent a tactical team to investigate. A joint task force 2 squad, 5 operators, 3 came back. The other 2 are still listed as missing. All 3 who returned resigned from service within a month. 1 is currently in psychiatric treatment. That got our attention. JTF-2 were Canada's equivalent of Delta Force elite operators. If they'd been spooked badly enough to resign, this wasn't a simple wildlife situation. The survivors won't talk about what they encountered. All 3 signed NDAs and accepted medical discharges. But the Canadian government has formally requested U.S. assistance through back channels. They want this situation resolved quietly and permanently. Resolved how? Rodriguez asked. Elimination of the threat. The creatures responsible for the attacks need to be located and neutralized. Full containment. No survivors. No evidence. No public knowledge. Creatures. Plural. Webb had said creatures. Sir, I spoke carefully. What exactly are we hunting? Webb looked at each of us in turn. Then he said it. The word that changed everything. SASQUATCH, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them. They're real. The U.S. military has known about them since the 1960s. There are protocols for handling sightings and encounters. Usually, we just monitor them and keep them away from populated areas. But this group has become aggressive. They've attacked humans. That crosses a line. Nobody laughed. When a full colonel in Delta Force Command tells you Bigfoot is real and you're being sent to kill them, you don't laugh. You listen. How many are we talking about? Jackson asked. Thermal satellite imagery suggests a family group, possibly 6 to 8 individuals. They're using a cave system approximately 40 miles northeast of the logging camp, remote area. No civilian population for 50 miles in any direction. Perfect for a contained operation. Rules of engagement? I asked. Weapons free. These are not human. Not protected under any law or treaty. The Canadian government has authorized lethal force. You will insert covertly, locate the den, and eliminate all targets. Then you will destroy any evidence that could prove their existence. Burn the bodies. Collapse the cave. Make it look like a natural event. When you exfiltrate, it will be as if nothing happened. What kind of resistance should we expect? Vogel asked. I mean, they're just animals, right? Webb's expression darkened. Don't underestimate them. They're not just animals. They're highly intelligent. They use tools. They communicate. They hunt cooperatively. And they're physically powerful in ways you can't imagine. A single adult male is estimated to weigh 600 to 800 pounds. They can move through forest silently. They're stronger than any human. And according to the JTF-2 survivors, they can be extremely aggressive when threatened. He clicked the projector again. Medical photos. Injuries. A man's arm with massive contusions and what looked like handprints. Fingerprints. But scaled up. The fingers had gripped his arm so hard they'd fractured the bone. This is what they can do when they want to send a message. Imagine what they can do when they want to kill. The briefing lasted another hour. We reviewed topographical maps, weather patterns, insertion and exfiltration points, equipment loadout, communications protocols, everything we'd need for a standard direct action mission. Except this wasn't standard. We were going to hunt Bigfoot. With night vision and automatic weapons and all the technology the U.S. military could provide. It should have been easy. It should have been a week-long camping trip with some target practice at the end. We deployed 48 hours later. Military transport to a small airfield in northern British Columbia. From there, a helicopter to a clearing 15 miles from the target area. We'd hike in the rest of the way. Maintain noise discipline, set up a forward operating base, and conduct reconnaissance before engaging. The Canadian liaison officer met us at the airfield, Major Ashley Vogel. No relation to our Vogel, though we joked about it. She was professional, competent, and clearly uncomfortable with the whole situation. My government appreciates your assistance, she said. But understand, this situation is extremely sensitive. If word gets out that we're conducting a military operation against what you're hunting, it could cause significant political problems. We're ghosts, Jackson assured her. We were never here. She nodded. The area you're entering is traditional territory of the Kwakwaka'wakw First Nations. They have stories about what you're hunting. They call them Bookwus, the wild men of the woods. According to their legends, these beings have lived in the forests since time began. They're considered sacred, dangerous, but sacred. Have you talked to the locals? I asked. Maybe they have intel on movement patterns or den locations. We tried. The elders refused to help, said we shouldn't disturb the Bookwus, that humans and the wild men have an understanding. We stay out of the deep forest. They stay away from our settlements. By logging in their territory, we broke the agreement, and now we're paying the price. Superstition, Martinez said dismissively. Major Vogel looked at him. Is it? Your government has been tracking these creatures for 60 years. Our government has records going back to the 1920s. The Russians have similar programs, so do the Chinese. Every country with significant wilderness has encountered them. Are we all just sharing the same superstition? That shut him up. The helicopter dropped us at dusk. The forest was thick, old growth, trees that had been standing for centuries. The canopy was so dense that even in daylight, the forest floor was dim. And now, with the sun setting, it became a different world. We moved in a tactical column, Jackson on point, me as team leader, in the middle, Vogel bringing up the rear with his sniper rifle. We covered 5 miles before full dark, then set up a hasty patrol base. No fire, no lights, just cold rations and whispered communications. The forest was loud. Birds, insects, wind through the trees. Normal nature sounds, but there was something else too. Something I couldn't quite identify. A feeling more than a sound. Like we were being watched. Anyone else getting weird vibes? Brooks whispered. It's just wilderness, Williams replied. We've operated in worse. Remember the Hindu Kush? This is a vacation compared to Afghanistan. But it didn't feel like Afghanistan. In Afghanistan, you knew what you were fighting. Humans with guns. Predictable. Understandable. This was different. This was hunting something that supposedly shouldn't exist. Something that might be hunting us back. We set watch rotations. 2 hours each. I took the first watch with Rodriguez. The forest grew quieter as night deepened. The birds stopped singing. The insects went silent. Even the wind seemed to die. That's when we heard it. A sound in the distance, low, resonant, almost like a vocalization, but too deep for human. It echoed through the trees, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. What the hell was that? Rodriguez whispered. Moose? I suggested, though I knew it wasn't. I grew up in Montana. I know what moose sound like. That wasn't a moose. The sound came again closer this time. Then another one answered it from a different direction. They were communicating. Calling to each other in the darkness, I activated my night vision. The forest lit up in green phosphorescence. Trees, undergrowth, nothing moving. But I had the distinct feeling that something was out there, just beyond the range of my optics, watching us. The sounds continued throughout the night, sometimes close, sometimes distant. Wood knocks too. Sharp impacts like someone hitting a tree with a baseball bat. The native people's stories talked about these sounds. Wood knocking, vocalizations, communication methods the creatures used. By morning, the entire team was on edge. Nobody had slept well. We'd all heard the sounds. All felt that presence in the darkness. But we hadn't seen anything. Not yet. Could be anything, Jackson said as we broke down the patrol base. Moose, bears, wolves. The forest makes weird sounds at night. You believe that? Vogel asked. Jackson didn't answer. He didn't have to. We all knew those sounds weren't natural. We all knew something had been out there, circling our position, observing us, making sure we knew we were in their territory. We moved deeper into the forest. Following the GPS coordinates Webb had provided, the cave system was another 10 miles north. The terrain got rougher, steeper. We were climbing now, moving into the mountains proper. That's when we found the first marker. A tree broken about 8 feet off the ground. Not cut, not damaged by wind, deliberately snapped in half and left hanging. The break was fresh, sap still oozing. No natural process does that, Martinez said. That's deliberate. Someone broke that tree. Something, Rodriguez corrected. Look at the height. You'd need a ladder or climbing gear to reach that high. Or you'd need to be 9 feet tall. Brooks added quietly. We found more markers. Trees broken at impossible heights, arranged in patterns pointing north, almost like directional signs, leading us somewhere, or warning us away from somewhere. They know we're here, I said. They're marking their territory, telling us to turn back, or leading us into a trap, Vogel suggested. Both possibilities were equally unsettling. By mid-afternoon, we reached a ridgeline overlooking a valley. And there, about 2 miles away, we saw them, our targets, moving through the forest with a grace that seemed impossible for their size. Through our optics, we could see them clearly. 3 of them. Bipedal, covered in reddish-brown hair, moving on 2 legs, with a gait that was distinctly human, but wrong somehow. Too smooth. Too efficient. They were huge. The smallest had to be 7 feet tall. The largest was easily 9 feet, maybe more. And they were doing something coordinated. Working together to strip bark from trees. One would hold, another would pull. They were gathering materials, building something, or preparing food. Intelligence, tool use, cooperation. Jesus Christ, Williams breathed. They're real. They're actually real. We watched them for 20 minutes, documented everything. Took photographs and video that would be classified the moment we got back. Gathered intelligence on movement patterns and behavior. Then one of them stopped, looked directly at our position. We were 2 miles away, hidden in dense forest, wearing camouflage, completely concealed. It looked right at us, right at me, and it made a sound. That same deep vocalization we'd heard the night before, but louder, more urgent. A warning call. The other 2 reacted immediately, looked toward our position. Then all 3 moved. Not running, not panicking, just calmly walking into the forest and disappearing like ghosts. They'd spotted us. Somehow. Despite the distance, despite our training, despite every advantage we had, they knew we were there. They've got better situational awareness than any human, Jackson said. How did they see us? Maybe they didn't see us, Vogel suggested. Maybe they smelled us, or heard us. Enhanced senses. Doesn't matter how they spotted us, I said. What matters is they know we're here, and they're telling others. That call wasn't just for the ones we saw. It was a warning to the whole group. We'd lost the element of surprise. The creatures we'd been sent to eliminate knew they were being hunted. And unlike most prey, these creatures could think, could plan, could fight back. The mission had just gotten a lot more complicated. We set up an observation post on the ridgeline and waited for dark. The plan was to use night vision to locate the cave entrance, then conduct the assault at dawn, when the creatures would presumably be sleeping. Standard tactics. Overwhelming firepower at a moment of weakness. But as the sun set and the forest grew dark, I couldn't shake the feeling that we'd made a terrible mistake, that we weren't the hunters anymore. We were being hunted. Night fell fast in the mountains. One moment there was twilight filtering through the trees, the next, complete darkness. The kind of dark you only get in deep wilderness, miles from any artificial light, the kind where your hand disappears if you hold it 6 inches from your face. We activated our night vision. The world turned green. Trees became ghostly silhouettes, the forest floor lit up in shades of phosphorescence. It was technology that should have given us every advantage. We could see in complete darkness. They couldn't, or so we thought. Movement, Vogel whispered from his position. 3 o'clock. 200 yards. I swung my rifle toward the direction he indicated through the nods, night observation devices. I could see something large moving between the trees. Bipedal. Deliberate. It was one of them. Moving through the forest with complete confidence, despite the darkness. They're not using lights, Williams observed. How are they navigating? Enhanced night vision, maybe, Martinez suggested. Like nocturnal animals' eyes adapted for low light. We watched the creature move. It paused occasionally, seeming to listen or smell the air. Then it would continue, following a path only it could see. It was heading toward the valley where we'd spotted the group earlier. Should we engage? Brooks asked. I considered it. One target. Isolated, clear shot. We could take it down right now. But something held me back. Instinct. Experience. The feeling that nothing about this situation was as simple as it seemed. Negative, I decided. We stick to the plan. Locate the den. Hit them all at once. Taking one now alerts the others and gives away our position. The creature disappeared into the forest. But over the next hour, we saw 3 more. All moving purposefully. All heading in the same general direction. They were congregating, gathering at the cave system for the night good. That's what we wanted. All targets in one location. Maximum efficiency. At 2200 hours, we moved. Silent patrol, every step calculated. We'd trained for this. Moving through hostile territory without making sound. It was second nature. Except now the hostile territory wasn't a desert in Iraq or mountains in Afghanistan. It was a Canadian forest. And the hostiles weren't human. The cave entrance wasn't hard to find. The creatures had created a trail through repeated use trees with bark worn off at shoulder height, where they'd brushed past disturbed earth. Even primitive markers, stacks of stones that seemed deliberately placed. The entrance itself was a dark mouth in a cliff face, about 12 feet high and 8 feet wide, large enough for them to enter upright. We could see the path leading inside, smooth, from use biosigns. I asked Williams, who had thermal imaging. He scanned the entrance. I'm getting multiple heat signatures inside. Hard to get a count. The rock interferes with the sensors, but definitely more than 5. Maybe as many as 10. More than we'd expected. Webb's intel had said 6 to 8. But numbers didn't matter. We had firepower. We had training. We had every advantage. "We can't go in blind," Jackson said. "Cave environment is nightmare fuel for tactical operations, limited visibility. No room to maneuver, perfect ambush territory." He was right. Assaulting into a cave system against an unknown number of targets that knew the terrain was suicide. We needed them to come out, to expose themselves where we had the advantage. We wait until dawn, I decided. Set up firing positions overlooking the entrance. When they come out, we hit them, crossfire, no escape, clean and simple. We spent the next 3 hours positioning ourselves. Vogel and Brooks on the high ground with sniper rifles, Jackson and Thompson with light machine guns for sustained fire. Martinez and Williams covering the flanks. Rodriguez with me as reserve. 8 fields of fire converging on a single kill zone. It was a perfect ambush. No one could survive crossing that ground, human or otherwise. At 0400, we were in position. I keyed my radio. "All stations, radio check." One by one, they responded. Everyone was ready. Now, we just had to wait for dawn. Wait for our targets to emerge. Then end this mission with overwhelming firepower. That's when we heard the sound behind us. A whistle, low and melodic, not random, not natural, deliberate. A signal. I spun around, bringing my rifle to bear. Through my night vision, I saw nothing but trees and undergrowth. But the whistle came again, closer, from a different direction. Then another whistle answered it, and another, all around us. We were surrounded. "Contact rear," Martinez called out. "I've got movement." "Contact left," Williams shouted. "They're everywhere," Brooks said, his voice tight with fear. My mind raced. This was wrong. All wrong. The heat signatures Williams had detected in the cave, they'd been decoys. Or maybe just some of them. The rest had been outside, in the forest, behind us. And now they had us surrounded. They'd known we were coming. They'd known exactly where we'd set up our ambush, and they'd set their own ambush for us. "Pull back to rally point," I ordered. "Fighting retreat. Stay together." We began to move, but the whistles followed us, staying just outside the range of our night vision, coordinating our position, hurting us. "They're boxing us in," Jackson said, "pushing us away from the cave, away from our exfil route." He was right. With each whistle, with each sound, they were maneuvering us, using terrain, using darkness, using tactics that shouldn't be possible for animals. But these weren't animals. Not really. Then the wood knocking started. Sharp impacts, trees being struck with tremendous force. The sound echoed through the forest. It wasn't communication anymore. It was intimidation. Psychological warfare. "Eyes on target," Vogel suddenly called. "I've got visual." Through my nods, I saw it. A massive figure standing between 2 trees about 50 yards away, 9 feet tall, minimum, covered in dark hair, standing completely still, watching us, just watching, not attacking, not fleeing, watching. "Engage," I ordered. Vogel fired. The suppressed rifle made a quiet foot. I saw the round impact. Center mass. Perfect shot. The creature flinched. That was all. Just flinched. Then it moved. Fast. faster than anything that size should be able to move. It covered the 50 yards in maybe 3 seconds and disappeared into the forest to our left. "Hit confirmed," Vogel reported. "But it didn't go down. I hit its center mass, and it just kept moving." "How?" Brooks asked. "That's a 7.62 round. That should drop anything." "Maybe we need bigger guns," Thompson suggested, hefting his machine gun. More movement. This time from multiple directions. They were closing in, working together, using the forest for cover. And they were fast. So incredibly fast. "Contact right!" Martinez fired a burst. "Contact front!" Williams joined in. The forest erupted with gunfire. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness. Spent brass tinkled on rocks. The noise was deafening. We were shooting at shadows and movement, trying to keep them at bay. And then Rodriguez screamed. I spun toward his position. He was there 1 second, gone the next, just vanished. His rifle clattered to the ground. His medical pack lay where he'd been standing, but Rodriguez was gone. "Rodriguez! Sound off!" I called. Silence. Then from deeper in the forest, we heard him screaming. Not words, just screaming terror, pain, the kind of sound that cuts into your soul. "We have to go after him." Brooks started to move. "Negative." Jackson grabbed him. "That's what they want. Separate us. Pick us off one by one." Rodriguez's screaming continued, getting further away. They were taking him deeper into the forest, away from us, and we couldn't pursue without splitting up, without walking into their trap. The screaming stopped. Suddenly, completely. The forest went silent. Even our breathing seemed too loud. "Rodriguez, respond," I said into my radio. Nothing, just static. He was gone, taken by creatures that shouldn't exist, dragged into the darkness by something that hunted with intelligence and coordination. "We pull back," I said. "One now fighting retreat to the exfil point. Stay together. Overlapping fields of fire. Anyone gets separated, they're gone." We moved as a unit. 7 of us now. Rodriguez was gone. Dead, captured, or something worse. We moved through the forest with our backs to each other, guns trained outward, expecting attack from any direction. The whistles continued, following us, coordinating. They knew where we were going, and they were letting us know they knew. At dawn, we reached a clearing about 2 miles from the cave. The sun was coming up. The forest became visible. And in the morning light, we saw what they'd done. Rodriguez's equipment, laid out in a neat pile in the center of the clearing. His rifle, his medical pack, his radio, even his boots, everything. Arranged deliberately, like a gift or a warning. But no Rodriguez, no body, no blood, just his equipment. "They stripped him," Williams whispered. "Took everything." "Where is he?" Brooks demanded. "Where's his body?" We searched the area, found tracks, lots of them, leading in and out of the clearing. Size 18 footprints. Human-shaped, but massive. They'd been here. Multiple individuals they'd left Rodriguez's equipment for us to find. Then we found the tree, 50 yards from the clearing, and hanging in its branches 20 feet up was Rodriguez. He was alive. Barely. His eyes were open, but unfocused. He'd been placed there, deliberately hung in the tree, not with rope or restraints, just positioned among the branches, wedged in place. "Get him down," I ordered. Thompson and Martinez climbed up, brought him down carefully. He was breathing. No major injuries we could see, just bruises, trauma, shock. "Rodriguez, can you hear me?" I asked. His eyes found mine. And what I saw there was pure terror, the kind that breaks something fundamental in a person. He opened his mouth, tried to speak, but all that came out was a strangled sob. "It's okay," I said. "You're safe. We've got you." But we didn't have him. Not really. Something had broken inside Rodriguez, something that medical training couldn't fix. We called for emergency exfil, medical evacuation. Command authorized a helicopter insertion to our position. They'd risk exposure to get us out. That alone told me how serious they considered the situation. While we waited, Rodriguez finally spoke. One word, repeated over and over. "Watching. Watching. Watching." "What was watching you?" I asked gently. His eyes met mine again. All of them. Surrounded me, looking at me, touching, examining, like I was an animal in a zoo. They didn't hurt me, just studied me. Then they put me in the tree, left me there, and they watched. How many were there? 15, maybe 20, different sizes, adults, juveniles, a whole family. And they were talking, not sounds like animals make, talking to each other about me. I could hear them. I couldn't understand the words, but I could hear intention, purpose. They were deciding what to do with me. And then they just let me go, put me in the tree, and left. 20 of them. Not 6 to 8. Not even 10. 20. An entire community, living in those mountains. And we'd walked into their territory with 8 operators and thought we could eliminate them. The arrogance, the stupidity. We'd been so confident. The helicopter came, extracted Rodriguez, took him to a Canadian military hospital where he'd spend the next 3 months recovering, or trying to. I never spoke to him again after that day, but I heard he took a medical discharge, moved to Arizona, as far from forests as he could get. 7 of us left now. 7 operators against 20 intelligent, coordinated, incredibly strong creatures that knew the terrain and could move through it like ghosts. But we couldn't withdraw. Not yet. Command wouldn't allow it. The mission parameters were clear. Eliminate the threat. No exceptions. So we regrouped, reassessed, made a new plan. "We need to change tactics," Jackson said. "They're too smart for a standard direct action approach. They know we're here. They know our capabilities. They beat us at our own game." "So what do you suggest?" I asked. "Fire. We burn them out. Use incendiaries. Create a firestorm. Force them out of the caves and into the open. Then we pick them off at range with the snipers." It was brutal, imprecise, against every rule of engagement we'd ever trained. On but fighting humans, we had rules. We had conventions. We had laws of war. These creatures weren't protected by any of that. They were targets. Nothing more. "We do it tonight," I decided. "Hit the cave with thermite grenades. Create an inferno. When they run, we cut them down. It was a massacre we were planning. I knew that. We all knew that. But Rodriguez, hanging in that tree, his mind broken by what he'd experienced, that had changed the equation. This wasn't a hunt anymore. This was survival. Them or us. We spent the day preparing, positioning ourselves on high ground overlooking the cave entrance, Vogel and Brooks with their sniper rifles. Clear lines of fire. Thompson with his machine gun to provide suppressive fire if needed. The rest of us with thermite grenades and incendiaries, enough to create a firestorm. As the sun set, we moved into position. This time, we were smarter, stayed on high ground, kept our backs to rock faces, made ourselves hard to flank. No more getting surrounded. At 2100 hours, we were ready. I looked at my team. 6 faces painted with camouflage eyes, hard, determined. These were warriors, the best in the world, and we were about to commit an act that would probably haunt us forever. But we'd lost Rodriguez. We weren't losing anyone else. Execute, I ordered. Martinez and Williams moved forward, threw thermite grenades into the cave entrance. The grenades ignited, white-hot chemical fire that burned at over 4,000 degrees. Nothing could survive that. The cave entrance became an inferno. And then we heard them. Inside. Screaming. Not animal sounds. Not roars or growls. Screaming. High-pitched. Terrified. The screams of intelligent beings burning alive. The sound cut into me. Made me want to stop. To pull back. But we'd committed. There was no stopping now. They came running out, covered in flames, trying to escape the inferno. And we cut them down. Vogel and Brooks, firing with mechanical precision, each shot finding its mark, each target dropping. It was efficient. It was effective. It was horrifying. I watched through my optics as they fell. Counted the bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 dead. But Rodriguez had said 20. Where were the others? That's when I realized. The ones we'd killed weren't adults, they were juveniles. Smaller, maybe adolescents or young adults. And the screaming from inside the cave. That hadn't been all of them. It had been a nursery we'd just burned their children. And somewhere in the forest around us, the adults were watching. They'd let the young ones run out first, sacrificed them to make us reveal our positions, to make us waste our ammunition, to make us commit the one act that would turn this from a hunt into a war. We'd just killed their children. And they were going to make us pay for it. The forest came alive with sound, screaming, rage. Not from pain, from fury, from grief, from a level of anger I'd never heard before. They came at us from all directions, not not tactically, just pure rage, charging through gunfire, taking hits, and keeping coming. Thompson opened up with the machine gun. The sound was deafening, but they kept coming. One of them reached our position. 9 feet of muscle and fury. It grabbed Thompson. Just reached out and grabbed him like he weighed nothing, lifted him off his feet. Thompson emptied his sidearm into its chest, point blank. I saw the impacts, saw the blood, but it didn't stop. It threw Thompson, actually threw him like a rag doll. He hit a tree 30 feet away. I heard the impact, heard bones breaking, Vogel shot the creature. Headshot. It went down. But 2 more were coming. "Fall back!" I screamed. "Fighting retreat! Move! Move!" We ran, discipline breaking down, into pure survival instinct through the forest in the dark. Them behind us. Gaining. Always gaining. Martinez went down. I don't know how. I just heard him scream, looked back, and he was gone. Something had grabbed him, pulled him into the darkness. 6 became 5. 5 became 4. Vogel tried to stop, to set up a firing position, to hold them off while we escaped. He lasted maybe 10 seconds. They swarmed him. I saw it through my night vision. 4 of them, converging on his position. Then he was gone too. 4 became 3. Me, Jackson, and Brooks, running through a forest at night, being hunted by creatures that wanted revenge, that wanted blood for blood. We ran until dawn, until our legs gave out, until we couldn't run anymore, and when we finally stopped, when we finally collapsed in exhaustion, we realized we were completely lost. No idea where we were. No idea which direction the exfil point was. And somewhere in the forest around us, they were waiting. We'd killed their young proven ourselves to be exactly what they'd always feared humans were. Monsters. We found a depression between 2 large boulders. Defensible. Good sight lines. Somewhere we could catch our breath and try to figure out where the hell we were. Brooks immediately pulled out his GPS unit. "No signal," he said. "Trees are too thick. I can't get a satellite lock." "Try the radio," Jackson ordered. I keyed my comm. "Any station, this is Carter. How copy?" "Sticking just white noise." "Could be the terrain," Jackson suggested. "These mountains block signals. We need to get to higher ground." "Or they're jamming us somehow," Brooks said. "They don't have jamming equipment," I said. "They're not..." But I stopped, because I didn't know what they were capable of. We'd assumed they were animals. Then we'd assumed they were primitive. Every assumption had been wrong. Maybe they did have ways to interfere with our communications. Maybe they'd learned more about human technology than we'd ever imagined. The sun was fully up now. Through the canopy, I could see blue sky, beautiful morning. Birds were starting to sing. The forest looked peaceful, like nothing had happened, like we hadn't just killed 5 of their young and lost 5 of our team. "We need to move," Jackson said. "Find the exfil point. Get out of this forest before they regroup." "You think they'll attack again?" Brooks asked. Jackson looked at him. "We burned their children alive. What do you think?" We moved carefully. Every shadow could hide a 9-foot nightmare. Every sound could be them coordinating. We'd gone from hunters to hunted so fast, it gave me whiplash. Around mid-morning, we found water, a stream clear and cold. We filled our canteens, drank deeply, tried to figure out our next move. That's when we saw the markers again. Trees broken at impossible heights. But these were different, more deliberate, more recent. And they were everywhere, dozens of them, all around our position. They marked our location, Brooks realized. They're telling others where we are. How many others? I added. Rodriguez said 20 in his group. We killed 5. That's 15 left plus whoever else lives in these mountains. This could be their whole community responding. The scale of our mistake was becoming clear. We hadn't been sent to eliminate 6 to 8 animals. We'd been sent into the territory of an entire civilization, hidden from humanity for millennia, and we'd attacked their home, killed their children. There would be no mercy, no surrender, just revenge. We started moving again, heading what we hoped was south, toward the general area where we'd inserted. If we could just reach the designated landing zone, we could call for extraction. Get out before they found us again. At noon, we found the trail human-made, narrow but distinct, heading in roughly the right direction. We followed it, moving fast. Too fast for proper tactical awareness, but speed was more important than stealth now. That's when we found Thompson. He was sitting against a tree. At first, I thought he was resting. Then I got closer and saw the damage. His left arm was broken. Compound fracture. Bone visible through the skin. His face was swollen. Bruised. One eye closed completely. But he was alive. Conscious. "Thompson?" I ran to him. "Jesus, you're alive." He looked at me. Tried to speak. Couldn't quite manage it. Brooks checked him over. Multiple fractures. Probably internal injuries. He needs a hospital. Now. "Can you walk?" Jackson asked Thompson. Thompson shook his head. Then he raised his good arm and pointed behind us, back the way we'd come. "What?" I asked. "What are you trying to tell us?" He mouthed a word I had to read his lips. He couldn't make sound, but I understood. "Run." That's when I heard it. Behind us. Getting closer. The sound of something large moving through the forest. Not trying to be quiet. Not anymore. Just coming. "We carry him," I said. "Jackson, you take point. Brooks, rear security. I've got Thompson." I got Thompson's good arm over my shoulder. He whimpered with pain, but didn't cry out. Delta Force training. Even dying, we kept it together. We moved as fast as we could. But Thompson's weight slowed us down, and the sounds behind us were getting closer. Multiple sources. They were hurting us again, pushing us in a specific direction. "They're boxing us in," Jackson said. "Same tactic as before." "Then we break the box," I said. "We go perpendicular. Change direction. Confuse them." We veered left, off the trail, into thicker forest. Harder to move through, but maybe harder for them to follow. We pushed through undergrowth. Scrambled over fallen logs. Thompson gritted his teeth against the pain, but kept moving. For maybe an hour, we didn't hear them. Thought we'd lost them. Then Brooks called out, "We've got a problem." Ahead of us was a cliff. Not huge, maybe 60 feet, but steep, unclimbable, especially with Thompson injured. To our left, thick undergrowth, impassable. To our right, the forest continued, but also climbed steeply. No good options. Behind us, the sounds were getting closer again. They'd found our trail. We're following. We were trapped. We make a stand, Jackson decided. Find defensible positions. Use what ammo we have left. Take as many with us as we can. I helped Thompson sit against a rock. Checked his weapon. He had maybe 2 magazines left. I had 3. Brooks had 4. Jackson had his sidearm and 2 magazines. Not much to fight with. but it was what we had. "For what it's worth," Brooks said, "it's been an honor serving with you guys." "Save the eulogy," I replied. "We're not dead yet." But we all knew how this was going to end. 4 operators, 1 critically wounded, against an unknown number of creatures that were stronger, faster, and knew the terrain. The math wasn't good. They emerged from the tree line. 6 of them. The largest I'd seen yet. The leader was massive, probably 10 feet tall, maybe 900 pounds, covered in dark brown hair going gray around the face, old, experienced, alpha. They didn't charge, didn't attack, just stood there, watching us, waiting. "Why aren't they attacking?" Brooks whispered. "They're assessing," Jackson said. "Figuring out the best approach. They're smart. They won't risk casualties unnecessarily." The alpha made a sound, low, resonant. The others responded. They were communicating, coordinating right in front of us, not caring that we could see. Because what could we do? Then something unexpected happened. One of them stepped forward, smaller than the others. Female, I thought. She was carrying something. As she got closer, I could see what it was. Vogel's rifle. Our teammate's weapon. The one who'd been taken during our retreat. She set it on the ground between us. Carefully, deliberately, then stepped back. It was a message. "We have your people. We have your weapons. We could kill you right now, but we're giving you a chance." The alpha made another sound. Then he did something that made my blood run cold. He spoke. Not in vocalizations or whistles, in English. Broken, accented, but clear. "Go home." My mind reeled. They could speak. They could learn human language. How? How long had they been watching us? Listening to us? Learning? I started to respond. The alpha cut me off with a gesture. Raised one massive hand. The message was clear. No talking. Just listen. "You came. You killed young ones. Our young ones." Each word was careful, deliberate, like someone speaking a language they'd learned but weren't fluent in. Why? I didn't know how to answer. How do you explain to a grieving father that you were following orders? That you'd been told his people were animals? That the government considered them a threat to be eliminated? "We didn't know," I finally said. We thought you were just animals." The alpha's eyes met mine, and I saw it. Intelligence, emotion, grief, anger, all of it. This wasn't an animal looking at me. This was a person. Different, but undeniably a person. "We are not animals," he said. "We are people, old people. We were here before you. We will be here after you. This is our home." "I'm sorry," I said. And I meant it. God help me. I meant it. I'm sorry for what we did. For what I did. We were wrong. The alpha considered this, looked at the others. They communicated, not with words, but with gestures, body language. A whole conversation I couldn't understand, but could feel. Finally, the alpha turned back to me. "Take your wounded. Leave, never come back. Tell your chiefs, tell your leaders. We exist. We have always existed. Leave us alone, or there will be war, and war You cannot win." He gestured to the cliff. I looked where he was pointing. There, carved into the rock face, were markings, ancient, weathered by centuries of exposure, but visible pictographs, showing human and larger figures, living together, hunting together, in some images, fighting, in others, at peace. "Your ancestors knew," the Alpha said. "They understood, made agreement. We stay in deep forest. They stay in flatlands. Both live, both survive. But you forgot. Your people forgot the old ways. Come into our home with machines and fire. Break agreement. Kill our children." "It won't happen again," I said. "I'll tell them. I'll make them understand." "Will you?" The Alpha's expression was almost sad. "Or will they send more soldiers? Bigger guns? Try again to kill us?" This is what humans do. Always take, always destroy, never share. I couldn't argue, because he was right. I knew command, knew how they thought. This mission had failed, but they'd try again. Different tactics, maybe, but same objective: eliminate the threat. "I can try," I said, unknown. "I can tell them you're intelligent, that you want peace. Maybe—" "Maybe nothing," the Alpha interrupted. "We know humans. Watched a long time. Hundreds of years. Know what you do when you fear something. You kill it. This is your nature." He turned to leave. The others followed, but one of them stopped. The female who'd brought Vogel's rifle. She looked at Thompson, at his injuries. Then she pulled something from a pouch she wore. A bundle of leaves and roots. She set it down near him, pointed to it, then to his wounds. Medicine. She was giving us medicine. Then they were gone, disappeared into the forest, like they'd never been there. Except Vogel's rifle remained, and the plant medicine. Proof it had happened. Proof they'd spared us when they could have killed us. We sat in silence for a long time, processing what had just happened. An intelligent species, living in the forests of North America, hidden from the world, and we'd just tried to genocide them. "What do we do now?" Brooks finally asked. "We get Thompson to a hospital," I said. "Then we report what really happened. Tell them these creatures are intelligent, our people, and hope to God they listen." And Jackson was examining the plant medicine the female had left. "This is yarrow, comfrey, willow bark, all medicinal plants." She knew exactly what Thompson needed. "How?" "Because they've been treating injuries for thousands of years," I said. "They know this forest, know everything that lives in it, including how to heal." We used the medicine, packed Thompson's wounds. The willow bark helped with the pain. Within an hour, he could speak again, could move a little easier. The plants were working. Traditional medicine that worked better than anything we had in our first aid kits. It took us 3 days to reach the exfil point, moving slowly, carefully. We saw signs of them several times, footprints, broken trees. Once we heard their calls in the distance, but they never approached, never threatened. They were letting us leave, honoring the agreement their Alpha had made. The helicopter came, extracted us, flew us to the Canadian military hospital where Rodriguez was still recovering. Thompson went straight into surgery. Jackson, Brooks, and I were debriefed by people whose names we weren't told and whose faces we were ordered to forget. We told them everything: the intelligence, the language capability, the offer of peace, the warning of war if we tried again. We told them these weren't animals. They were people, ancient people, and we needed to find a way to coexist. The debriefers listened, took notes, recorded everything. Then they told us the mission was classified, that we'd signed NDAs, that the official story was a training accident, 8 operators deployed, 5 casualties, 3 survivors. No mention of what we'd been hunting, no mention of what we'd found. What about the creatures? What happens to them? That's above your pay grade, was the only answer I got. A month later, I was offered early retirement, full benefits, medical discharge for PTSD. They made it clear it wasn't really an offer. It was an order. Dressed up nicely, I took it. What choice did I have? Jackson and Brooks were given the same option. We all took it, left the service, moved on with our lives. Or tried to. But I can't forget. I see that Alpha's face every time I close my eyes. Hear his broken English. We are people. We are not animals. I hear the screaming from the cave, the children we burned. The terrible thing we did in the name of following orders. Rodriguez never recovered. He's in a facility now, somewhere that takes care of veterans who can't take care of themselves. Thompson survived his injuries, but walks with a limp. Last I heard, he was living in Nevada, desert, no forests. Martinez and Vogel were listed as killed in training accident. Their families were given closed casket funerals. I don't know what was in those caskets, but it wasn't them. Williams disappeared into witness protection, or something like it. I've never been able to find him. 5 men dead or destroyed. 3 survivors carrying the weight of what we did. And somewhere in the forests of British Columbia, an entire community of intelligent beings wondering if humans will ever learn to share the planet I'm telling this story. Because I need people to know. Bigfoot, real. They're not animals. They're people. Different people. Ancient people. But people nonetheless. They have families, communities, language, culture. Everything that makes something a person rather than a thing. And we tried to kill them. The U.S. military sent 8 of its best operators to commit genocide. And we almost succeeded. If that Alpha hadn't shown mercy, if he hadn't given us a chance to leave, none of us would have made it out. They could have wiped us out, easily. But they chose mercy, chose peace, chose to give us a chance to be better than we'd been. I don't know if the government is planning another operation. Don't know if they've learned anything from Operation Silverback. But I know this. If they try again, if they send more soldiers to kill what they don't understand, it won't end well for anyone. Because that Alpha was right. In a war between humans and the forest dwellers, we can't win. They know the terrain. They're stronger, faster, more adapted to wilderness survival. And there are more of them than we ever suspected. The government knows. They've always known, and they've been managing the situation for decades, covering up sightings, silencing witnesses, keeping the truth buried. But the truth is coming out. More sightings every year. More videos, more evidence. Eventually, the charrette will be impossible to keep. And when it comes out, when the world learns that intelligent, non-human people live among us, I hope we're ready to make the choice our ancestors made: peace. Coexistence. Respecting their territory and their right to exist, because the alternative is war. And that's a war nobody wins. I'm sitting in a cabin in Montana, middle of nowhere, surrounded by forest. Ironic, considering what happened. But after years of trying to run from the woods, I realized something. The forest isn't the enemy. We are. I've spent the last 6 years researching, following up on what we encountered, trying to understand what these beings really are. And the more I learn, the more I realize how catastrophically wrong we were. They're called different names by different tribes: Sasquatch Bookwus, Skookum, Tsulakalu. Every Native American culture has stories about them. Not myths, not legends, historical accounts, cultural memory, spanning thousands of years. They knew. They always knew. And there were agreements, real agreements between indigenous peoples and the forest dwellers, territory boundaries, trading protocols in some areas, mutual respect. It worked for millennia, both sides surviving, both sides thriving. Then Europeans arrived, brought guns, brought the concept that humans owned the land instead of being part of it, started clear-cutting forests, driving game away, breaking the old agreements without even knowing they existed. That's when the sightings increased, when the encounters turned violent. Not because the forest dwellers changed, because we did. We invaded their territory, destroyed their habitat, left them nowhere to go. I've interviewed retired park rangers, forestry workers, people who've spent their whole lives in the woods. Off the record, they all have stories, encounters, sightings, evidence that mysteriously disappeared, superiors who told them to keep quiet or lose their jobs. There's a network, a quiet, unofficial system for managing these beings. Park rangers who know which areas to keep people out of, forestry services that accidentally leave certain regions unlogged. Military operations like ours that are supposed to eliminate problems when they arise. But mostly, the system works through ignorance. Keep the public from knowing. Discredit witnesses. Confiscate evidence. Maintain the illusion that we're alone at the top of the food chain. Last month, I was contacted by someone claiming to be from Wildlife Management Special Operations. Not a real government agency. At least, not one with an official name. They wanted to meet. Discuss Operation Silverback. Make sure I was maintaining operational security. I met them at a diner in Bozeman. 2 people. A man in his 50s who introduced himself as Dr. Marcus Webb. A woman in her 30s who didn't give her name. They already knew everything. Where I lived, what I'd been researching, who I'd been talking to. Mr. Carter, Dr. Webb began, I wanted to start by saying thank you for your service. What you and your team experienced in British Columbia was unfortunate, a failure of intelligence and planning on our part. You sent us to kill them, I said, called them animals, threat to be eliminated. We were working with incomplete information. The Canadian government had downplayed the intelligence indicators. We didn't know they could speak. Didn't know they'd learned English. That changed everything. So what now? You planning another operation? Send more Argers to finish what we started? Dr. Webb shook his head. No. The policy has changed. After Silverback, after reviewing what actually happened, the decision was made to pursue a different approach, containment rather than elimination, monitoring rather than engagement. Why? Because you were right. They're not animals. They're people, non-human people, but people nonetheless. And the United States government has a very mixed history with how we treat people we consider other. We'd like to do better this time. The woman finally spoke. There are approximately 2,000 to 3,000 of them in North America, mostly in Pacific Northwest, but populations exist in the Rockies, Appalachians, even northern Canada. They've been here longer than humans. Genetic testing suggests they're a separate evolutionary branch that split from our common ancestor about 1.5 million years ago. You've done genetic testing? I asked. You have specimens? We have samples, hair, blood, tissue from casualties. The genetics are clear. They're as closely related to us as Neanderthals were, maybe closer. They're people, Mr. Carter, just people who chose a different path than we did. Dr. Webb leaned forward. We're trying to establish communication protocols, real ones. The alpha you encountered, the one who spoke to you, we've identified him. His name, in their language, translates roughly to Old Gray. He's approximately 75 years old, leader of one of the largest family groups in British Columbia. And he's been remarkably tolerant given what happened. Tolerant? We killed his children. 5 juveniles. Yes. And in any human culture, that would be an act of war. But Old Gray chose peace. Chose to give your team a chance to leave. That suggests a level of wisdom and restraint that, frankly, makes our species look bad in comparison. What do you want from me? I asked. Your testimony. Your experience. We're building a case to change the official policy. Right now, they're classified as unidentified biological entities. No legal protections. No rights. We want to change that. Classify them as a protected indigenous population. Create reserves, formal agreements, recognition of their right to exist. Will it work? The woman answered, honestly, we don't know. There's significant resistance. Military wants the flexibility to eliminate threats. Logging industry wants access to old-growth forests. Even some environmentalists worry about how this knowledge would change conservation priorities. But we have to try. They left me with a file, classified documents about interactions with forest dwellers going back to the 1960s. Photographs, audio recordings, video footage. All of it real, all of it suppressed. The evidence is overwhelming. They exist. They're intelligent. And we've been covering it up for 60 years. I'm releasing this story because people need to know, because the truth can't stay buried forever. Because old Gray was right when he said war is coming. If we don't change, more people moving into wilderness areas every year, more development, more logging, more recreation. We're pushing into their territory at an accelerating rate, and they're running out of places to go. When that happens, when they're truly cornered, the agreements will break down. The tolerance will end. And then we'll see what they're really capable of. I've seen it firsthand. 8 elite operators with the best equipment in the world. We lost. Badly. Now imagine that scenario playing out across the continent, thousands of these beings defending their homes against human expansion. The casualties would be staggering. That's why I'm breaking my NDA. Why I'm risking everything to tell this story. Because maybe, just maybe, if enough people know the truth, we can choose a different path. We can recognize that we're not alone on this planet. That intelligence comes in different forms. That people who look different, who live differently, still have the right to exist, to have territory, to raise their families in peace. The Native Americans knew this, made it work for thousands of years. We can learn from them, can make new agreements, can find ways to share the continent instead of trying to dominate every square inch. Or we can keep doing what we're doing. Keep expanding. Keep logging. Keep building. Until there is no wilderness left. Until the forest dwellers have nowhere to go. Until conflict is inevitable, I know which path I choose. I choose peace. Choose recognition. Choose coexistence. I'm posting this on every platform I can find, sending copies to journalists, to researchers, to anyone who might listen. The government will try to suppress it, discredit me, maybe worse. But the truth is bigger than any one person. Bigfoot is real. They're people. And they've been asking us for one simple thing for generations. To be left alone. To live in peace in what's left of their territory. We owe them at least that much. After everything we've taken, everything we've destroyed, we owe them the right to exist. If you're reading this, if you're listening to this story, I'm asking you to do one thing. Next time you're in the woods, next time you're hiking or camping or just enjoying nature, remember, you're not alone. And if you hear whistling, if you hear wood knocks, if you see trees broken at impossible heights, don't be afraid. Don't run. Just leave. Quietly, respectfully. The way you'd leave if you walked into someone's home uninvited. Because that's what the forest is. Their home. And we're the visitors. Old Gray, if you're somehow able to hear this, if your people have ways of knowing what humans say about them, I want you to know something. I'm sorry for what I did, for what my team did, for the children we killed. I carry that weight every day. And I'm trying to make it right, trying to make others understand what you taught me, that you're people, that you deserve peace, That this land is big enough for both our kinds. If we're willing to share, I don't know if we can change fast enough. Don't know if my species is capable of the wisdom yours has shown. But I'm trying. We're trying. Some of us anyway. And I hope that's enough. For the sake of both our peoples, I hope we figure this out before it's too late. Because the alternative is a war nobody wins, and a world where we lose something irreplaceable, the last link to our ancient past, the last proof that intelligence can take different paths, the last reminder that humans aren't as alone or as supreme as we like to think. They're watching. They're listening. They're waiting to see what we choose. I hope we choose wisely. It's been 3 weeks since I posted the original story. The response has been overwhelming. Millions of views, thousands of comments, people sharing their own encounters, their own evidence. The truth is spreading faster than anyone can suppress it. I've been contacted by documentary filmmakers, researchers, even some government officials willing to speak off the record. The dam is breaking. The truth is coming out. But there's been a cost. My cabin was broken into. Nothing stolen, but everything searched. I've been followed, watched. I know what that means. I'm on borrowed time. So this is my final message. If something happens to me, if I disappear or have an accident, know that I was telling the truth. Know that they're real. Know that we have a choice to make as a species, and make the right choice for all our sakes. The forest is watching, and the forest remembers everything.